The Feywild has multiple sides. Usually when you hear Feywild or Fey creatures, we immediately think of the summer court. Perpetual summer days wrapped in ceremony and etiquette, attended by satyrs, dryads, sprites, and pixies. But in the 2024 redesign of D&D's Monster Manual, we get a window into the other, much darker side of the wild Fey West. These guys.
What about them? Hey, Frank.
Goblins are the quintessential enemies for low-level parties. If you've played any tabletop game, you likely have memories of mowing through these little guys as they run screaming. But with the new Fey-leaning Goblinoid redesign, fighting them can and should be scary, with one group being particularly unsettling. It's Monster Week 2026, and this year the TTRPG community is taking a look at the Feywild. In this video, we're gonna look at the redesign of D&D's newest inclusion to the Fey and explore some tabletop tactics for how to deploy them, so your combats can feel like the monsters actually know what they're doing. My name is Sam, I'm a Dungeon Master and former teacher, and I've spent the last decade teaching over 100 new players how to tell their stories using my favorite game in the world, Dungeons & Dragons. This is Tabletop University. Welcome to Tactics 101. In the 2024 Monster Manual redesign, there was a concerted effort to explore the nastier side of the Feywild, which I love.
You don't go into the wilderness and just see lovely flowers and trees. There's also predatory instincts. There's also the nasty sides of it.
This means new classifications for Goblinoids and other legacy monster types. And the best part is that some of the new mechanics actually back up this fiction of them being crafty, scary monsters in the dark, if you know how to use them. There's a great book by Keith Amon called The Monsters Know What They're Doing. It changed the way I think about running monsters. Since he wrote it for the 5th edition rule set, some of his insights don't directly translate to the new 5.5 redesign, but his philosophy for running monsters remains potent. They know what they're capable of, and they make the most of it. When discussing DM prep, he uses a perfect analogy. Soldiers don't whip out their field manuals for the first time when they're already under fire, and a DM shouldn't be contemplating for the first time how bullywugs move and fight when the PCs have just encountered 12 of them. In order to make your combats in the nastier side of the Feywild feel scary, thought out, and real, you have to have tactics in mind before the arrows start flying, and that takes research, planning, and strategy. Luckily for you, I already did that part. Goblins are no longer considered humanoid and are now officially Fey. Some of your humanoid targeting spells like Hold Person won't work on them anymore, but I think that's fine and forces players to think outside the box. These new Fey goblins are all about being creepy little guys, hidden just out of sight. They lurk in the darkness, lure you into an ambush, and attack, only when hidden, so that they gain advantage. Advantage makes them more likely to hit you, but with their redesign, they're more deadly when they have that advantage. And now they have more ways to get it.
Amp up the Feyness of the Goblinoids because we wanted to make sure they didn't just feel like regular people, but in Goblinoid suits. We wanted to make sure that there were some elements here that were very reminiscent of different aspects of the Feywild.
We can tell a lot about the way a creature works by examining their stat block. The Goblin Warrior is your standard goblin now, and they are defined by their low HP and high stealth. As with most creatures, their main motivation is survival, so that low HP means that they won't ever engage in melee unless forced to, or unless they have overwhelming numbers. Also, when we look at both their attacking options, we see that they're equally dangerous from distance as they are from up close. These numbers tell us that goblins only survive when they avoid being hit, and in order to do that, they'll hit you first, in a group, from as far away as possible, likely under cover of darkness. They'll also want to stay spread out so that their position can't be given away by other goblins doing the same thing. They have 60 feet of dark vision, so when they engage, they'll start around 50 feet away ideally and attack from hidden, so they have that advantage. The last part of their action is new to the Fey Goblins of D&D 5.5. They now do more damage when they have advantage. And like he said in his book, they know that this is how they're the most dangerous. A Goblin Warrior's turn looks like this. They're gonna start from hidden, about as far away as possible. They're gonna use a short bow attack with advantage for maximum damage. Then move out of sight, and hide again using Nimble Escape as a bonus action. If a goblin leaves its hiding spot only to run straight into a PC's longsword, that's not a goblin, that's a person in a goblin suit. Their goal is to stretch the party, bait them into splitting up, and then pick them off one by one with ambushes. Encountering goblins in a cave network is very similar to a dark forest, except they will likely have overlapping tunnels and arrow slits so they can employ this strategy when creating distance isn't really possible. They attack the players with an ambush and then dash away to hide and regroup, ready to do the same thing again. The goblin minions design honestly makes no sense to me. They have less health, but no ranged weapons, which forces them into melee range. Their daggers can be thrown from like 20 feet away, so it feels like their only combat option is to attack in a pack, down a PC quickly, and then hopefully run and hide. I'd recommend at least giving them a short bow or a sling, otherwise they're kind of just goblins with a death wish. The goblin boss is actually great. He's just a self-centered warrior with multi-attack, so the same tactics for warriors work here, with one exception. Possibly my favorite ability ever, which carries over from the 2014 rules. Redirect attack means that the boss can use a reaction each round to switch places with an ally when they're being attacked. The attack now targets the ally, likely sacrificing them, which is hilarious, but also pretty mean. Amon calls the boss obnoxiously focused on self-preservation, which is extremely accurate. He'll always make sure that he has a minion or a warrior nearby so that he can use this every single round. The Hexer is brand new to the goblin party, but changes the whole dynamic and makes them a lot more dangerous. His main focus will be using spells to give the warriors advantage on all their attacks, even when hiding is no longer a valid option, which, as we highlighted earlier, matters a lot to their chances of winning a fight. To start out, he'd like to use a minor illusion to lure a party member into an ambush. The illusion can be treasure or someone calling out for help. Pick something that your party can't resist, but also that a goblin would actually come up with. Once combat starts, he uses multi-attack to shoot enemies with the hex stick while supplying advantage to the warriors with Fairy Fire and Blindness Deafness. He'll use Grease when someone has gotten too close to the group and they're forced into melee combat. This last part is homebrew, but I like to lean into the Fey ancestry a little more and steal from the Fey Touch feat, giving him one free Misty Step per day, since he doesn't have bonus actions anyway, and a guy like this will likely be targeted by the party. Also, every round, use the Jinx reaction to keep the Hexer alive as long as possible. Their chances of victory rely heavily on advantage, so it's neat that the Hexer actually gives them more ways to create it. The next time that you walk through the Feywild at night, don't trust the glint of treasure you see shining in that cave. Could be a goblin ambush, or worse, bait to lure you into the grasp of a much creepier Fey creature, which we'll discuss after we look at the new soldiers of the Feywild. Hobgoblins are the complete opposite of goblins in feel and strategy, but with an identical goal: gain advantage on attacks. The Hobgoblin Warriors redesigned stat block is built around something called pack tactics, which gives them advantage by having an ally near their target. Where goblins want to be spread out, Hobgoblins always move in units. With a high armor class, due to their half-plate armor, they want to fight up close. Pack tactics work really well with longbows as well, so ideally Hobgoblins should have a second unit of archers, about 130 feet away, firing from a safe distance, but still with advantage. They'll always break their numbers in half, forming 2 units. You'll never find a Hobgoblin alone. If there is one left, they will flee in order to go get reinforcements. The Hobgoblin captain has way more HP and essentially super pack tactics, aka their aura of authority. All allies in a 10-foot radius have advantage on attacks and saving throws. Because of their reliance on a close group, area of effect spells will usually wreck a Hobgoblin party, but not with the captain around. They'll no longer split their ranks in 2 because that saving throw advantage makes them way more durable. So we get a new strategy, the Mob Goblin. Regular goblins will jump in on this too, because they want that advantage that the captain supplies, and also because they were probably ordered to. Hobgoblin Warlord have even more health and super duper pack tactics with a 30-foot advantage radius on their aura, but no longbow, since they apparently want to get close enough to use a 3 attack with advantage onslaught using their parry reaction to avoid any attack rolls of 20 to 22. You may have noticed there's no magic users here. Their soldiers feels a bit lazy, so I like to add a battle cleric. They have pack tactics, of course, give them 2 uses of bless to strengthen the unit, but their real job is to shut down rival casters. So 1 use of hold person or silence per day helps with that. The stat block should be on the screen, so feel free to grab that screenshot. Moving away from our soldiers and into the creepiest group is our last goblinoid on this list. Bugbears. Completely redesigned and scary in a different way. While still being the heavy hitters when needed, both versions in 5.5 are now designed around a new trait, abduct. I didn't know this until researching for this video, but Bugbear is just an alternate name for a creature whose lore is so expansive and wide-reaching, you likely grew up with a version of your own, the Boogeyman. And with their redesign, they are now built for what they were always meant to be, a silent, hulking, fur-covered creature with dark eyes, claws, and sharp teeth who silently grab disobedient little adventurers when they wander too far into the forest. Whew. The Bugbear Warrior has high HP and high stealth, a reach of 10 feet, and the ability to hurt you and nab you at the same time. Then the Abduct trait allows them to sprint away into the darkness at full speed. They're built to sneak up on you, snatch you, and run away before the rest of the party can turn around. They're honestly perfect for forcing a party to split up or luring them into a goblin ambush. The Stalker is a warrior with twice as much health and can now grab you as a bonus action, then using its action to either beat you twice with its Morningstar or take the dash action and create real distance between his prey and the party.
These are the creatures that lurk in the dark forest where people just vanish because there's bugbears and they nab you and they carry you away so you're never seen again.
As a DM, if you manage to abduct a PC, it could be a fun change of pace to split them up from the party in real life until the party finds them again. The monster manual says that bugbears don't want to kill their prey. Let them play their part of the escape separately, maybe in a separate room. And while you've got them there, have them watch this video so they know what happened to them. Also, make sure they subscribe and hit the bell so you'll be notified the next time I post a video. One last addition to the Fey Goblinoid family is Worgs, and they are essentially just mounts for goblins. They're actually not great without a rider because they don't do a lot of damage. With a speed of 50 feet though, they're really fast. And although they don't do much damage, their bite means that the next enemy that attacks you will have, you guessed it, advantage. Makes sense, that'd be perfect for goblin warriors and best used as a mount for a goblin boss so that they can use their speed to get him from more goblin shields so he can keep saving himself by throwing them in front of him. You get the idea. They'd also be great as a getaway car for a bugbear and his captive.
Bring your pretty face to my eyes. No one touches mine!
This video has been really fun to make, and I'd love to continue this into a series. If you have suggestions for future monsters, drop it in the comments and that'll be the first place I look when I plan the next one. As a whole, Hobgoblins didn't get a massive change from 5th edition, but their pack tactics and organization makes the idea of a conquest storyline work really well. If that sounds interesting to you, you should Google the Red Hand of Doom. To me, our Fey Goblins and Bugbears honestly feel a lot more like the fantasy of goblins and boogeymen that they were inspired by. Keith Almond says that the tendency of DMs when they reach decision fatigue is to just have the monsters slam into the PCs, stabbing them a bunch, which I know I've done. And that's why he wrote this book. He's releasing a new edition for D&D 5.5 in October, and while this is not sponsored at all, I love his work and can't recommend this one enough, so I've already pre-ordered the new edition. I'll put a link to that down below. His writing has helped my monsters seem like they know what they're doing, and hopefully this video will help you do the same thing. I have another video on how to make all combats better. You should check that out if you haven't already. Also, there's a bunch of other creators making videos on the Feywild for Monster Week, so you should go check those ones out as well. The goal of this redesign was to find the nastier side of the Feywild, and I think that these changes, especially the Goblin Hexer and the Bugbears, will make it easier for you to do that. So you can put tricksy Fey Goblins and Boogeymen into your stories. And at the end of the day, that story is all that matters. This has been Tabletop University. I've been Sam. Thank you for watching.